who is joining. We are going to start about 3:05, I reckon, so another 4 or 5 minutes and we'll get started. Thank you for muting, Carolyn.
No problem. Everyone, just a quick announcement. If you have any questions or comments you want to make, please do so with the chat function. When you're chatting, make sure you send it to everyone. There's options of who you can chat to. We ask that you send it to everyone so that we can keep track of all the comments. Thank you.
Be back in 1 second. Hang on.
Good afternoon, gents.
Carolyn, did you check the kind of the latest registration numbers at all?
Yes, I did. Hold on. I'm actually just sending it to you guys right now.
Do we have Jillian today?
No, Jillian's not going to be able to make it, but you had 106 registrants as of this morning.
That's pretty good. So again, we'll give it to 3:05, guys. I'll share again just now, Carolyn, and get all set.
Sure.
That's my screen back on again, I hope.
Yep, all good. Yep.
All good. Okay. All right, I'm just waiting for my clock to tick over now. We'll get started.
You have host capabilities. You're good to go.
Thank you. One last thing, Carolyn, you hit record already. I haven't checked. But...
Yep.
Okay.
I did, but I can't see it anymore since you're host.
It's
so
in progress. Okay,
to...
we're good. We're good.
Okay. Then you're good. Yep.
Okay, let's get started then. Well, hi everyone. It's 3:05 British Summer Time on Friday, the 24th of April, and this is Qlik Virtual Meetup Scotland, episode number 2. Gosh, it doesn't seem like so long ago that we were running episode 1. It was actually 2 weeks ago, but it doesn't feel like that at all. How time flies when you're having fun. So, just a bit of an intro slide there to begin with. I'm here with my co-captains, George Beaton and Andrew McKilrick, fellow luminaries. I'll introduce them again in a second. And we just thought we'd pop the episode 3 registration in there for you already. I think George or Andrew will pop that in the chat. If you want to sign up now, feel free to go for it during the session. We have guests lined up and we'll chat about those later as well. So our agenda today, well, We've got some really exciting speakers today. We're really pleased to have them. We started off kind of fantastically with Ailif and Stephen in session number 1. But today I'll give a little bit of an intro to the session itself. We'll bring in George and Andrew to say a few words as well. We'll then pop it over to Carolyn. We love to give the Luminary programme and the Meetup programme a chance to talk about the things that they do in a wider context as well. And I guess onto the highlights of our day today. We've got 2 fantastic speakers today. Donald Farmer. Well, I don't need to introduce Donald. I'm sure many of you know him from his Qlik and Microsoft days. But it's incredible to have Donald here at pretty short notice as well. So he'll be doing a great session on the new Analyst, and I'll let Donald talk a little bit about that in a second. Then we'll all get a chance to grill Donald, and that'll be George and Andrew who will be conducting that part of affairs. And then we'll move on to kind of keynote number 2. We're really happy to have Mike Tarallo here from Qlik. Don't think we haven't noticed all your hard work on the ping alerting front as well, Mike. I know you've been working hard to get that out on social over the last few days. But Mike's going to talk to us about more specifically about the April 2020 QlikSense release. So that'll be pretty cool. Hopefully you've seen some of his videos already, but why see that when you can see the man in person here? We're then getting to kind of the wrap up in the next meetup. We do have our guests already arranged for the next meetup and times and everything, so we're going to chat a little bit about that going forward as well. So we're aiming to run about an hour and a half. We'll hopefully finish about 4:35 British summertime. So it's not too long a session. Hopefully there'll be something for everyone as well. So who's hosting you today? Well, there's me, Brian Booden. I work for a company called DataGlow IT, a small business intelligence consultancy based in Scotland. And I'm very proud to be here with my co-captains today, George Beaton of FTI Consulting and Andrew McIlrick of Differentia Consulting. So George, do you want to say a few words just now about yourself?
Sure, just a very quick hello from a sunny Scotland. It's an unusual occurrence here. Just as excited as you, Brian, that we've got 2 fantastic speakers. I think the first time I saw Donald speaking was back in 2015 when he was at, I think, Qlik Dev Group number 2 down in London. Since then, I think I've seen you speaking at least another half dozen times. So every single one of them has been memorable. So looking forward to this, and cheers as well, Mike. So thank you. I know we're short on time, so I'll not drone on. Andrew, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yep. Hi. Thanks, George. Yeah. Hi again from Scotland. All 3 of us based in sunny Scotland, which is nice weather today. Obviously, same as George. Both looking forward. All of us looking forward to this immensely. 2 great speakers, and I'm sure everybody will find this really entertaining and informative. So, thank you.
Great stuff, guys. Thanks very much for introducing yourself there. I thought hopefully we've got some new people here today on the back of our registrations from Meetup 1. So I just thought a very quick recap of Meetup 1. We had Mike Capone, CEO of Qlik, able to give us a bit of an introduction and just talk us through a little bit about the COVID strategy of Qlik. So that was really nice to have Mike, and thanks for him putting his time in. Ailif Tutuk obviously was one of our star highlights from session number 1. She talked a lot about the really cool stuff that's happening in QlikSense at the moment, and some future innovation as well. We had Stephen Redmond as well, who gave us a fascinating recap on the history of pie charts, and Stephen has very kindly written a blog for us as well that answers some of the questions from the previous session. So that was great for him to do that for us. Really a lot of registrations and a great amount of attendees from the first session as well. And just if you didn't know already, the recording from session 1 is now available, and maybe the guys can pop that into the chat as well as we go forward. So that's really cool. So normally when we have physical meetups, we usually have a little bit of pizza. But I hope you have pizza in front of you if it's the right time of the day. It might be a bit early if you're Pacific time, I guess. But controversial Corona beer, obviously, a very important part of the current scenario as well, and very typically that makes us all very, very Mr. Happy at this point. of the meetup. We don't have any of those things. Feel free to crack open a beer or eat some pizza if you want to. But what we do have instead is we have Carolyn Davis and Gillian Farquhar, who have been really helpful with getting everything organised with Qlik Meetup and the Luminary programme so far. So Carolyn, I wonder if you want to just spend just a couple of minutes just letting everyone know about the Meetup and the Luminary programmes for anyone that's new here.
Yeah, sure. So for most of everyone here probably is familiar with the Meetup and Luminary programs, but just in case, our Luminary program is kind of our, we call them like our lighthouses. They lead the way. They're our true advocates and supporters of Qlik, whether they're customers, partners, or just independent users. And they help us in so many ways, and we help them too. They give us, you know, great feedback, and they offer ideas, and the projects they do are really, and they're very vocal on social. So it's a really cool program to be a part of, and they are, you know, really engaged with Qlik, and so it's really cool to have a meetup with Luminary captains, which is the case here. And so you're also familiar with our Meetup program, which is kind of our grassroots program for Qlik users and by Qlik users. Basically, we wanted to come up with a program where Qlik users could, you know, get together and just solely talk Qlik without any like marketing or sales or any, you know, lead chasing. So that's what we came up with, and it's, you know, really grown in the past couple years, and it's cool to see it change into the virtual setting now with everything that's going on, and it's been awesome to have the Scotland Meetup lead the way on that. They were the first Meetup group to do it virtually, and they've really set the way. We've had so many more come through, so thank you guys, and it's been a pleasure kind of switching to virtual with you all.
Thanks very much, Carolyn. It's always great to have you on the call, and I think it's a brilliant job that you've done with the Meetup and Luminary programs, especially supporting us all to go virtual. So thanks very much for that. Really appreciate it. So I guess it's time to move on to the first of our two main events of this session as well, and I'm very proud to introduce Donald Farmer. Much in the same way that I had a little incident with Stephen Redmond last week in terms of knocking the drink over him when I first met him. My first experience of meeting Donald was a little similar. I was sitting in the crowd before I was a Luminary. I was sitting way back in the crowd in Connections, and I think I tweeted to him during one of the keynote sessions that he was doing that I was the only other Scot in the crowd. And following kind of a retweet and a reply, I managed to get a hold of him, and we've kind of been in contact ever since. So it's great that Donald came to visit us when we were Qlik Dev Group in Scotland a couple of years ago, and managed to support us on an event there, a really cool event. So Donald, you mean a lot to this group, and we're all keen to see how Scottish your accent still is. So I'm going to throw it over to you, if that's okay. You should be able to kind of grab the host and share your screen when you're ready.
Okay, well, now I've got to adjust my accent as well as my screen, but let's see how we get on with that. Let's see how I get on with sharing the screen. Tell me once you can see something. It's really good to be here, and it's a while since I've actually used WebEx. The rest of the world seems to be on Zoom, you know, but this is actually a pretty good platform. Let's see how we get. What can you see? Are you seeing it in presenter view, or are you seeing
presenter view? Yeah.
Okay, that's not so good. On top of which, I've got a kitten bombing me as well. Okay, so let's do that. And I guess I need to get this just out of presenter view.
There you go.
How's that?
Yep.
You can see slides saying the new analyst?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, good. And you can't see anything else. You can't see. That's the important thing. You can't see the kitten. You can't see my email. Anything else. Okay. Good. Let's get going. So first of all, thank you very much for having me here. I think it's a great idea to be doing these virtual meetings. One of the nice things for me being remote, being here in Seattle, is that I'm remote from everybody. I'm remote from people down the street. So it feels like I'm engaging a lot more with people than I would have done. Normally, I'd be engaging with people if I was visiting if I was traveling, if I was in the country, but now everybody is remote. And I'm busier than ever doing this, so it's really good. One of the things I've been talking a lot about recently is what I call this new analyst, frankly, the new type of person who we're meeting more and more in our business. And I want to talk about what the characteristics of this new person, the new analyst is, and give you a sense of why I think they're important and how we can encourage them, how we can actually develop these skills. First, Brian, you'll recognize this. Everybody always asks me, why is my business called Treehive Strategy? Or if they know I've got a treehouse, they always ask, how's the treehouse? So the obligatory picture of the treehouse for those people who don't know. I'm not in the treehouse just now. I don't have any wireless up there. It's where I go to get away from technology. But I will be there almost as soon as this call is over. So who is the new analyst? Let's start with a picture. And this is, I'm very careful about my clip art. People think I just choose crazy clip art, but I put a lot of thought into my clip art when I choose it. This is a picture of the new analyst. And the new analyst, several things are very important about this, and several things are important that are, related to the way things were when I started in this business. I first started developing business intelligence and data warehousing products formally about 25 years ago. Before that, I was still doing data analytics, but we had, we didn't quite have these technologies. So what's different now is, well, first of all, the analyst in the picture is a woman, and that's actually very important. We see a lot more diversity, a lot more women in our business than we did 25 years ago, for example. And I still don't think we see enough, but I think it's a really important point that increasingly in the business intelligence world, I meet a lot of very, very talented women in this space, and that diversity is critically important. The other thing about this is she's working on a Mac. Very fancy, high-end Mac at that. And that's interesting because just even a few years ago, when I first joined Qlik, for example, in 2011, there was a big discussion about whether Qlik should support Mac or not. And the conversations around that time, well, all serious business people are using PCs. And the Mac was seen as a tool for creatives, for artists, for musicians, for filmmakers. It was seen as a tool for writers, perhaps, but not seen as a serious business tool. And nowadays, you go to any conference, you go to any business meeting, and you'll see people sitting around using Macs. There's a lot of reasons for this. A lot of it's because technologies have moved to the cloud, and so the platform that you connect to the cloud from is not so important because your compute is being done remotely and you're primarily using an interaction tool. But the other thing that's very important is that in our space, the business intelligence space, we are actually now seen as a creative business. We are data visualization, data science, data analysis of all sorts is actually seen as one of the kind of creative professions. No longer seen as something that was kind of obscure and technical, but is now absolutely seen as something that's part of, has a great deal of creativity in it. And so the Mac is kind of an appropriate tool for her to be using. But the third thing that's important in this picture is that she still has a Rolodex as well. She's using the latest high-tech technology, but there's some basic stuff there that's pretty old-fashioned as well. And that's also very true for our industry. Yes, we've moved on in many ways with advanced new technologies, but there's still a lot of basic stuff which either isn't digitized or is in older forms of digitization. We're still stuck with a lot of legacy applications that provide the backbone of our businesses. And so the new analyst, she has a creative side, but she also has to live with this world that is still tethered, if you like, or still reliant on a lot of legacy technologies in there. And the new analyst brings, I think, four things to the table. The first is that there are skills. There's real skills in analysis. And we'll talk about those skills in a little bit of detail, what they are. But there's a skill set for doing analytics. And you'll see that I split this into two types of skills. There's also a set of tools that she brings. And that's very important, that there are specific tools for doing data analysis. And very importantly, I think we can talk about the difference between tools which are provisioned and tools which are tools of choice. If you were to look at Power BI, product that I worked on before I joined Qlik, Power BI is probably, in terms of the number of desktops, the leading business intelligence tool in the market. Huge numbers of deployed desktops of Power BI, huge numbers of users, probably greater than the rest of the market put together, except there's not really a tool of choice for people. Most of those people have never bought Power BI, in the same way as most of us have never bought a license of Excel, even though it's the most popular tool in the market. We get provisioned with Excel. It comes with our laptops. It comes with our kind of corporate portfolio when we join a new company. It's provisioned by IT, but very few of us have ever gone out and bought a license of Excel. Very few of us have ever been in an Excel training course. It's just there. So that's a tool which is provisioned. But then you have the tool of choice. And the tool of choice could be a tool like Qlik, which you choose to adapt. And the phrase that used to be used by Gartner, and I think we used to quote it very often at Qlik, was it's chosen by business users with or without IT's permission. Now, the truth is, as Qlik has developed over the years and become more and more mainstream, and as it's built out its capabilities, including the data platform, increasingly Qlik is a deployed tool as well. It's chosen by IT departments and deployed out to the business. And in fact, nobody really gets into the enterprise without being deployed by IT. But there are still many of us on this call in particular, who are Qlik users by choice. We've adopted the platform ourselves. The other thing that the new analyst has is access. The new analyst has access to data, access to people, access to processes, and that's very important. You can't get anywhere without data, without access to people, without understanding processes. And the new analyst has all of those things. And then finally, the new analyst has ownership. And what I mean by that is they actually not only have a job title or a job role which requires them to do this, but very often it's not even the fact that their job requires them to do data analysis, it's the fact that they have chosen to do data analysis. They've become the analytic person in their role, whether it's in marketing or manufacturing or in production, whether it's in finance. They're the person who has almost self-appointed themselves to be the owner of data analytics in that horizontal or in that vertical part of their business. And again, that's very, very common to see that. It's not that somebody has been told that they will be the analytics person or even hired into that role. Very often you find people taking ownership of that role. So this is what the new analyst brings. But very, very importantly, she brings these things informally. And what I mean by that is that the skills that an analyst has, they may well be trained in some ways, but very often if you look around the Qlik ecosystem and look around the Qlik community, you find a lot of people who have informally trained in Qlik and informally trained in data analytics. They have come from backgrounds in marketing or production or manufacturing or whatever, and they've learned data analysis as part of that role. The tools are informal. As I said, they're tools that are often adopted personally, tools of choice rather than tools that are provisioned. So they may be informal. They may not even be deployed by the business. I know lots of people who pay for their Qlik licenses, their Qlik tokens themselves. And then you have informal access. And by that I mean that, again, the person doing the analytics may not be in a formal reporting tree that Active Directory would automatically give them access to a lot of enterprise data. But they get that data because they're seen as being the analytic person. And very often the access is somewhat informal. And by informal, I mean that it might be outside the strict rules of that you would expect from the company hierarchy. It doesn't mean it's ungoverned, but it does mean it's informal. And then finally, the ownership, as I suggested, they take ownership themselves. Again, it might not be ownership that comes formally with a job role. It's ownership which comes from the fact that they are the analyst, they are the person who's taken on this task themselves, rather than just rather than being a formal analyst or formally having this job title and responsibility. So let's go on and have a little look about these informal skills that an analyst would need to have, and the new analyst has. So many of you will have heard me talking about this before, that browsing is more insightful than querying. In fact, this was not one of the themes of QlikSense when we first developed it, but it might well be. For us, the work that we did on design, particularly the work that Murray McMahon led when he was working in Lund, was very much based around this understanding of how people use data. That sitting down and writing a formal query in order to get specific results requires you to already have understood the data, requires you already to have understood the implications of the question you're asking, and requires you to be able to formulate the question very clearly in order to get the right answers. But browsing is a skill, but it's also a skill that needs to be supported by technology. So you might have been familiar with this kind of approach as well that we also talked about, I think, back at the early days of QlikSense, that there are two different experiences that you have. There's a lean forward experience when you're working, for example, on a laptop with a keyboard attached, where you are leaning forward and very focused on performing a specific task. And there's a lean back experience where you're more casual, you're interacting with the data, browsing the data, looking for discoveries in the data, but your attitude, your physical attitude, your mental attitude is one of a more kind of relaxed exploration rather than a kind of focused querying. And again, one of the things that we put a lot of effort into was building an application which would support both of these attitudes, if you like, both of these approaches to doing analysis. And my kitten has just jumped on my keyboard, so if things go a bit strange. We'll see what happens. So the example I like to give of the difference between querying and analysis, we all remember the old, well, maybe we don't all remember, I'm certainly old enough to remember Alta Vista and Lycos, and the old search engines for the web, where you had to use, very specific terms. You had to use the AND operator, the OR operator, the NOT operator. You had to use parentheses, plus signs, minus signs. In fact, if you wanted to get good results back, you had to use these very structured queries. And nowadays, if you're in Google, rather than building a query, what you really do is browse. In fact, there's an I feel lucky button, which will just kind of return you to one result. But Google is very good at doing three things. It returns more information than you can possibly handle. It returns that information very, very quickly, and it enables you to browse. And these three things together, they work with our fundamental analytic skills that we have as human beings. Not our developed skills that we have as trained analysts, but our very basic human skills of being able to find our way through very large amounts of information. And we're going to talk about how that works. I'll give you an example, though, of this. This is two searches that I did looking for information on the web. And one of them on the left-hand side is hotels in Anaheim. So Anaheim in California, of course, is where Disneyland is either Disneyland or Disney World. Disneyland is in Anaheim. So, of course, if you search for hotels in Anaheim, you get a lot of results. You get almost 61 million results, and you get it in half a second. Now, there's no way you can search through 61 million results. In fact, that data set is overwhelming. But Google enable you to work with that data set, first of all, by structuring the answer in such a way that you can browse it very, very easily. And because this is a commercial query, we're looking for hotels, they actually put commercials and adverts right up front. Partly because, of course, they're wanting to sell you stuff and they want to make money from it, but also because if you're asking a commercial query, they think this could be more useful to you. If I ask for something very obscure, the query on the right-hand side, for example, favorite jokes by Wittgenstein, the Austrian philosopher, I still get 81,500 results. It's a much smaller data set, but it's a data set that I couldn't possibly read every single one of these results myself. And I get it in less than half a second. So again, it's very, very fast. And then the site enables me to browse by giving me highlights, giving me little ways in which I can spot something, so I can see what I'm looking at. Certain terms stand out, and there's enough information there for me to pick out different types of answer that may or may not be appropriate to me. And we call this approach information scent. They give me a kind of scent. They give me the smell of the data. Sometimes we call it information foraging. It enables me to go kind of foraging about here like an animal looking for food. And the important thing here is, if I've discovered this is interesting to me, I could, for example, decide that I'm really interested in grammatical jokes. I could change this to grammatical jokes by Wittgenstein, and in less than half a second, I'd get another result that allows me to explore in more detail. Now, the reason I want to emphasize this is because this capability of browsing is so absolutely vital to the skills of an analyst. And very often in our world, the world of data analysis, we tend to provide people with a querying experience rather than a browsing experience, which is sometimes okay for the specialist, but is generally pretty hopeless for the business user. And even for the specialist, they still need to understand the question in order to be able to ask it in the detail required to get a good and useful answer. So what I want to talk about a little bit is the experience of the new analyst and how we can work with that. And one of the models that I use for this, both when I'm talking to product designers and talking to experience designers or visualization designers or people designing dashboards, is this four-step experience of how we actually analyze data. This comes from the world, originally comes from the world of library science. A great woman called Marcia Bates, who developed a model, a very similar model for library science. And Marcia Bates, way back in the 70s, was faced with the big data problem, the original big data problem, which was the move towards microfilm and microfiche storage for library information. Now, microfilm and microfiche has several of the qualities we associate with big data. It has a vast quantity of data in huge variety, and is stored in its native format, which is to say it's photographs of pages. And therefore, it's unindexed. It's difficult to find things in there. And how do you actually find information in a big data system like that? And that was, a problem for microfilm and microfiche. It's a problem for us today. And this four-step process describes the mental processes that we go through as we work with that volume or that type of data. And I want to kind of just go through this in a little bit of detail to call out why it's important to us. The first step is orientation. And orientation for us in this space means knowing where you are, but also not just knowing where you are, but knowing where you can go from where you are. This is very important. I'll give you an example. I said this came from library science. So this is the National Library of Scotland, appropriate example for today, and somewhere where I've spent many, many hours. And the National Library of Scotland, of course, is a huge collection of books. And if I want to find my way around, and especially if I'm looking for something, I may be browsing as opposed to querying for something. If I wanted to query, I'd go to a librarian and fill out a form. But if I'm browsing for something, I may be walking around the shelves here looking for something. The first thing I need to know is, where am I? Which department am I in? I'm in the history department, the geography department, the politics department, the legal department. But I also need to know how to get somewhere else. In other words, if I'm in the history department, what are the subdivisions of the history department, and how do I get from history to geography or from history to archaeology if that's something that's important to me and is related. So orientation is a question of knowing where you are, knowing what you're looking at, and knowing where you can go from there. Now, you can think of this in the Qlik world, and I'll relate it back to QlikSense. Orientation in QlikSense is actually one of its key features. The selection bar, for example, at the top of the QlikSense screen is very, very unique amongst business intelligence applications, in that it gives you a very clear understanding of exactly what you're looking at any time. You can see what the selections are that you have made. Not only that, you can go back and forward through the selections with the arrows, and you can navigate from different selections that you've made to other selections that you've made. So QlikSense, in that sense, puts a lot of emphasis on the quality of orientation that you need in order to do analytics. There's another form of orientation, though, which is important, which is understanding how to get somewhere. And two illustrations would show that. On the left, you have, you'd be familiar with this perhaps if you've been walking around London. You'll see quite often in London people riding around on mopeds with maps stuck to the windscreen of the moped. And what they're doing is they're practicing for the taxi driver's exam, what's called the knowledge. They're actually driving around memorizing every street in London. There's a similar exam for taxi drivers in Glasgow and Edinburgh, but it's not nearly as famous, and it's not nearly as difficult, not nearly as demanding as the London test. But if you take a taxi in London, you're actually, you're riding in the back of a car with somebody who has successfully completed a cognitive task that most of us would be incapable of doing. It's really an extraordinary thing that what these taxi drivers do. And now today, of course, most of us use the system on the right-hand side. We jump in a car or we jump in our own car and we use a GPS system, which gets us from one place to another. And you need to know how to use the GPS system. But at the same time, that's the way we find a way around. And these are two different types of knowledge, if you like, that help us to navigate through systems. They're known as survey knowledge and route knowledge. Now, survey knowledge is the understanding of the system as a whole. We understand how everything holds together. And in the business intelligence world, there's a very interesting distinction that you could make between the survey knowledge of the business and the survey knowledge of the information system, because these are different things. A great example of this is you go into any business that uses SAP. The survey knowledge of that SAP system, how it's configured, what all the modules are, how they all fit together, that's not exactly the same as knowing the business. Knowing the business is a very different matter. If you work in manufacturing, you might understand the manufacturing process without understanding anything about how the SAP system works that is supporting it. So survey knowledge can be of different types, but it is knowledge of the complete system. Route knowledge, on the other hand, is knowledge of how to use tools to perform a specific task, or how to get from one place to another without understanding how the entire system is put together. So, for example, I've been to Sweden many times. I've been to Stockholm several times, quite a lot, and I know how to find my way around Stockholm using the underground system, but I don't have a really good knowledge of the city. I have route knowledge. I know how to get from my hotels to the places I want to go, but I don't have survey knowledge in the sense that if you asked me how all this was related, or what all the islands were and how they all related to each other, I wouldn't really know that very well. So I don't have survey knowledge of that city, but I have route knowledge. I know how to find my way around it, the specific places that I need to go. In our information systems, many of our business users have route knowledge of IT or business intelligence systems. And what I mean by that is they know how to get their reports. They know how to get their dashboards. They know how to get to their information that they're looking at. But they don't understand how the whole system fits together. Now, you may actually have it almost the other way around as well. I've been in plenty of businesses where there's been IT people who have very detailed survey knowledge of the IT system, but they only have route knowledge of the business. And by that I mean that they may not understand specifically how things like, say, purchase orders and invoices and requisitions and cancellation forms. They know what all these things are. They know what tables to look at, but they might not actually understand the entire business process that pulls that together. So we have any individual that you talk to, when you're doing an engagement, when you're talking to a customer or a partner, will have different types of knowledge. They will have route knowledge and survey knowledge of different systems. And it's really, really important when you're designing a dashboard or you're designing an information interface, what type of knowledge do you expect the user to have? And if they have survey knowledge and you give them a system designed for route knowledge, they're going to be frustrated because it's oversimplified. If they have route knowledge and you give them a system that requires survey knowledge, they're going to be frustrated because they can't find anything. And understanding the knowledge they have and how it's structured is a very critical part of building our information systems. The new Analyst has both route knowledge and survey knowledge, but not comprehensive in any sense. They have survey knowledge of specific systems, typically the information systems, and route knowledge perhaps of either business systems or IT systems that they're interacting with. The second step beyond orientation is glimpsing. And glimpsing is this ability just to see something quickly. This is a bookshelf sitting beside my desk, and you could probably glimpse very quickly some things here. There's a book by Stephen Few at the bottom right-hand side. Now you see it, a pretty good book by him. You'll see books on data mining. If you know what the Wiley Press books look like, you'll absolutely pick out a few Wiley Press books there because you can see them by their design. You can see some very old books. The Brain of the Firm by Stafford Beer, back from the 1980s. You can see some very new books and books on AI superpowers by Kai-Fu Lee up on the top right-hand side. Some of you might find books written by you. I think there might even be a book written by me in there somewhere. But you don't have to read all of these books. You glimpse them by just reading the spines, looking at the illustrations, looking at the colors, looking at the various sort of use of typefaces and design. And that actually gives you a lot of clue as to what it is you're looking for, or if you're looking for the right kind of book, or a book that will that actually meet your needs. And you don't need to read all the books in order to do that. In fact, it would be impossible to do that, but you can pick up a lot of information that you need just from glimpsing what's there. I should say that in Qlik, Qlik does a pretty good job of enabling glimpsing. You can glimpse things, for example, if you can glimpse outliers in bar charts and in scatter plots. There's a good use of animation in Qlik, which you notice when you change from one screen to another. There's little animations in the visualizations as we change the visualization types, all of which actually help you to glimpse information. But having glimpsed something, the next step is examining it. And examining is when you, in a library, for example, you might discover the book that you're interested in. You might not know it's exactly the right book, but you're interested in it. You don't take it away yet. You read through it. You glimpse through it. You kind of flick through it. You would look at the index. You'd look at the illustrations. You might look at the chapter titles, and then you decide it's probably the right book. And in the same way, in the information world, we examine. Having glimpsed something, you can see, for example, in this QlikSense example, there are some outliers. That's something that you can glimpse. There are some peaks and troughs in the chart that you can glimpse. We use color to enable people to glimpse things. All of these things can be glimpsed, and now we can examine. And of course, the classic form of examining in Qlik is going in, making more selections, seeing the green, white, and gray, and browsing through the data in that way to find out if we found the most interesting or useful insight. Having examined, the final step of our analytic process is to acquire. And in the library, of course, that means that you check something out. But acquiring in the information sense is actually something which most business intelligence tools do very, very badly. You think of some of our favorite other products. I have an example of, we'll take Tableau as an example of that. Let's say I find something in Tableau. I've built a visualization. I've probably built a beautiful visualization. It's a good visualization tool. I find something interesting in the data. Now what? What's my choice? What can I do with it? And our options are very, very limited. The same is true of Power BI. The same is true of other business intelligence tools. In Qlik, there's quite a lot of options for what you can do, ranging from capturing something and putting it onto a storyboard so you can tell a story with it, around creating notifications around something that you find, around enabling annotations with it. All of these are forms of doing something with what we've discovered. And again, one of the things that we have to think about when we design information systems is, what do we actually do with the information that we found? When we made a discovery, what do we do with it? And increasingly, that has to become part of our analytic environment. One of the things that's happening more and more now is people are creating low-code or no-code ways for people to build interactions at the end of the analytic process. So that's an analytic process that we can go through. And my recommendation to anyone working with information systems is to think of these 4 steps and to ensure that you've actually covered all of these 4 steps in your design and implementation process, whether you're building a product, a tool, or whether you're building dashboards or reports or information systems for users. The same 4 processes apply, and building them in a logical or a consistent way really helps people. And I want to be very clear. I genuinely think Qlik is the best platform out there for doing this. And I don't just say that because I work for Qlik. There is no analytic platform which covers this entire scope as comprehensively and as completely as the QlikSense platform does. Another thing we have to cope with as a new analyst is ambiguity, and I'll kind of wrap up by going through this one reasonably quickly. The ambiguity is just part of our life. This was a windstorm, a major windstorm off the coast of Seattle a few years ago, and I remember this one, you know, all the dramatic headlines. It's going to be windstorm, tornadoes, and much more. I don't know what much more could be, but it's going to be a murderous storm. The high school dancers are cancelled. And it turns out that on the day, it was a difficult forecast. We didn't quite get the storm that anyone expected. In fact, there was a small error of 25 miles where the storm hit the coast. It blew out on the mountains. A few deck chairs got blown over, and that was about it. And that was pretty interesting because our local meteorologist said the problem was that we were very bad at communicating uncertainty. We were very good at making a forecast. The forecast actually was quite a good forecast, but there was uncertainty in it, and we didn't communicate the uncertainty effectively. There was other things that happened in 2016 that we also typically got wrong because we misunderstood the uncertainty, and you know, a lot of people looked very silly with their predictions after that. So the point here is that most people want certainty. They want clarity and certainty, but very often our information systems can't deliver it. And if you're delivering something which is probabilistic, your predictions can seem very vague. They seem very unsatisfying. Oh, I think it'll be about this. Isn't really as satisfying as saying, yes, we're going to hit that number. We don't like vagueness typically in our world, even though ambiguity is an important part of our information systems. And you can see this in the world of analytics. We build these, this is a typical kind of sales pipeline model showing what we think sales would be like. And very often we create more detail, even though more detail isn't less ambiguous. My favorite example, here's a great example of a sales dashboard built with Qlik, with QlikView, in which we have details such as the estimated value of sales for the next quarter is $7,493,087.68. A ridiculous degree of accuracy, which is completely unrealistic in the sense that nobody can predict sales to that potential value. The estimate makes it seem more accurate, more important than it really is, when in fact there's no business decision you could make with that data that you couldn't make just as well knowing that estimated sales were 7.5 million as opposed to $7,493,087.68. So sometimes we get round the problem of ambiguity by trying to pretend it doesn't exist by giving more and more accuracy, apparent accuracy. This is a chart with error bars added, which is supposed to show that not only is there a sequence of values, but there's a range of possible values around each data point. But typically, unless you're a data analyst who's used to using this kind of visualization, you would find this a very difficult chart to interpret. Giving this to a business user doesn't help them either. Here's a prediction of population in the world, and it's shown in a very typical way of a simple line chart, which shows the growing population in Africa and the Asian population, by far the largest in the world just now, but becoming much closer to the African population, even just less than 100 years in the future. This chart looks pretty useful, but it's not the way the original data was presented. Originally, the data was presented like this, with ambiguity shown round about it. And now you'd have a very different conversation if you had this ambiguous information, because now it's very clear that, yes, things are following a particular pattern, but there's a wide range of variability in the outcomes. And that gives you a much more interesting conversation to have. I would love to see, for example, the sales model that I gave you show predictions in a way that allowed for a discussion of ambiguity around the sales numbers. Then you would have a much more interesting and engaging and informed conversation about it. If we're talking about weather for the weekend, you want to have a barbecue or something at the weekend, maybe not just now, or maybe just for yourselves on the patio. It's useful to know about what the weather is going to be like, but knowing that it's going to be sunny or knowing that there's going to be AM showers doesn't really tell you how much rain there's going to be, how heavy it's going to be, how long the shower is going to last for, things like that might be really useful. Other weather impacts can be shown. This is the one that the British Meteorological Office uses for showing dangerous, in this case, snowstorms. It gives you a very easy to use impact matrix that gives you a good sense of whether something is likely and unlikely, but it also gives you a lot of detail about what specifically that means. What is a high impact? What is a medium impact? So these are different ways of handling ambiguity. And my suggestion is very strongly, we've got to get better at this in analytics. We've got to get better at giving, especially as we deal with predictive analytics, more and more important part of our business, we have to be able to explain the ambiguity and the impact of the work that we're doing in clearer, more useful ways. So in other words, being more clear about ambiguity is one of the skills that we have to have as data analysts and data storytellers in the future. And this is important because, Edward Deming, this is a very famous phrase that without data, you're just another person with an opinion. I would hate to criticize one of the leading statisticians of his age, and certainly a guy who was a genius at understanding data. But I understand what he's saying here, but I have my own version of it, which is even with data, you're still just another person with data and an opinion. You still have opinions, even though you have the data. Data is not some magic property which just cures all our human failings. The data, we have to understand data in order to use data. And we have cognitive biases which get in the way of doing that. There's a great phrase from Michael Lewis, the guy who wrote Moneyball, and we should remember this. As analysts, we should remember this every day. An explanation is where the mind comes to rest. And what he means by that is it's not enough to say, well, I followed the data, I followed the evidence, therefore this explanation must be true. When we find something that explains something to us, we even use the phrase, oh, that explains it. And you can mentally relax at that point. We've stopped being critical at that point because we've found something that's comfortable to us. I'll show you an example of this. This is an appropriate one for today. This is the murder rate in Scotland from 1957 to 1968. To be clear, it is a very low murder rate, I'm glad to say, but still, it's a serious issue. And something that's pretty interesting there is 63, 64. You'll see that the murder rate increases fairly dramatically. It's going up over 50% at that point. So that's between 63 and 68, 69. So that's pretty worrying. And you'll see that, of course, one of the things which is increasing in particular is capital murders. That is, murders that people could be executed for. But of course, what's important here is that it's in 63, 64 that Scotland did away with capital punishment. So capital punishment was no longer, execution for crime was no longer a possibility. And so one explanation of this chart is that execution, hanging was a deterrent to crime. And when you took that away in 63, 64, the numbers increased dramatically. Therefore, and you'll still hear people today telling you, showing you these numbers and saying we should bring back hanging because the crime rate is too high, and we know as soon as we took it away that the crime rate increased. There's another way of reading this, which is to say that juries were much happier to bring back guilty verdicts after 63, 64 because execution was no longer on the table and people often felt very much very worried about bringing in guilty verdicts so people could be executed. And more importantly, prosecutors were also willing to bring the most severe charges. They might have brought lesser charges before 63, 64 in order to ensure that they got a conviction. So you could say that hanging deterred people, it deterred prosecutors from bringing the toughest charges. So which one is the explanation? There's two possible, well, there's probably more possible explanations than that, but there's two explanations: that capital punishment was a deterrent, or that capital punishment in fact put off juries, and as soon as it wasn't available, the juries were happier to convict. And which explanation you prefer isn't a question of analyzing the data, it's a question of what are you comfortable with? Which explanation works for you? And this is something that Michael Lewis emphasizes, and it's very important, that an explanation, never mind all the analytic skills we're talking about, fundamentally, we're human beings with biases, we're human beings with cognitive biases, but also emotional biases and social biases. And what we think of as an explanation isn't a technical issue, it isn't a data issue, it's about where our mind comes to rest and where we feel comfortable. This brings us to the last kind of bit I want to talk about data literacy and collaboration. When I lived in Scotland, I sometimes start presentations saying that when I lived in Scotland, I spent a lot of time in prison, which was true. I worked at Barlinnie on an adult literacy course, and I was helping people. You might remember the old On the Move adult literacy classes that the BBC used to broadcast on a Sunday. I helped people with that as tutoring. And you met people who lived in a highly literate society. Scotland is a highly literate society with a very high proportion of readers and people reading a very high number of books per year. If you're illiterate in that society, you're almost in a prison already. On the other hand, today I do work with an Indian nonprofit called Prata, which is dealing with a bigger problem, which is that 40% of the society, and in some regions, a much higher number, is illiterate. And they're trying to raise the level of literacy in the society. And the reason this is important, when we talk about data literacy, we often don't understand data at all. I think this hilarious chart, which seems to show something very significant about teenage pregnancies dropping drastically when you reach the age of 20, is an example of data illiteracy at its finest. One of the things we have to be able to do is to communicate with data, collaborate with data. So data literacy isn't about one or two people understanding data. It's about how do you raise the level of communication in entire society. I love this example of the prices in a market before and after mobile phones were added. This is the price of sardines in a market in southern India. And you can see that as soon as mobile phones are introduced, the price is stabilized. Well, why does that happen? Well, it happens because now you can have conversations. Now you can collaborate on this information in a way that you couldn't before. And this transforms the whole society. It means that now you can plan. You can see patterns in the economy. You can actually see patterns in the charts here showing the slight increases in prices during monsoon season. People can plan. They can plan economically. They can plan their business. They can plan their lives. Transforms the whole economy of this area. And it's entirely the result of bringing collaboration system in this case, simple fact of being able to collaborate using a phone. This is why Alan Weber said that in the new economy, conversations are the most important form of work. All our competitors have data. All our competitors have more and better market intelligence and product intelligence than they've ever had. The difference is what do we do with it? What do we do with that information and knowledge and data that we have? And that isn't just analysis, it's conversation and collaboration. So I often say that data literacy isn't a personal skill. When we look at the work, for example, that Qlik does with a data literacy project, and you'll have seen perhaps that I was being kind of critical about this online recently, not about the data literacy project, which I think is wonderful, but about using the term data literacy because it sometimes sounds a bit patronizing. Oh, we're making this, you're illiterate if you don't understand how to use this data. What I want to suggest is that data literacy is more like the level of data literacy is in a society. It's about data literacy as an organizational skill. how you have conversations about your insights is what really transforms your business. So with that, I want to kind of come back to the new analyst and the skills. They're adaptable, they're aware, they're open-minded, they're literate, and perhaps above all, they're collaborative. That is the qualities that they bring to the work. So with that, that was the new analyst. That's an introduction to the kind of person that I'm seeing, the kind of work that I'm doing to help people develop strategies around that use of the data. I think we have some time for questions and answers, or perhaps
Hey Andrew, thanks so much for that, Donald. That was fascinating. I think Andrew has been plucking a few questions out of the chat there. Do you have something for Donald, Andrew?
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks again, Donald. It was really informative and entertaining as always. Hopefully everybody learned a bit about the new data analyst. An observation made by Joe from Vislib was around the future. How tough is it to make predictions when you are that new data analyst? We're very all moving into a world of machine learning, artificial intelligence. How does that fit in with the persona that you were describing in your presentation?
Yeah, it's you know, the new analyst has absolutely got to have some understanding of predictive analytics, and especially as I say, about ambiguity. It's not just about, one of the key skills of a data scientist or somebody working in predictive analytics is the ability to communicate their findings. It's not enough to be able to do the analysis. You actually have to be able to be a pretty good data storyteller. In fact, I often make the point when I'm helping people develop data science teams that their first data scientist should be chosen as much for their interpersonal skills as they should be chosen for their technical skills, because they have to be able to explain what they're doing, you know? And that's not always true in data science, where people can be a little, you know, they used to have this old joke at when I worked at Microsoft, is, you know, how can you tell a friendly data engineer? Because they look at your feet when they're talking to you. And we always have to have this, you know, you want someone who's got good interpersonal skills as a data scientist, because they actually have to be able to explain what can be very complex ideas to other people. And later on, once you've got that team in place, you can have the back office boffins who've got maybe more technical understanding. But I really can't emphasize strongly enough the need for good communication.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've just got time for one very quick response, please, to another question that Scott asked at the start, just around the trust element between the traditional IT roles and this new world of the new data analyst. How does the trust break down, and how do we embrace the new roles and deliver this as a new model and way of working, especially for young kids as well, coming out of school and university?
Yeah, it's you know, one of the things that comes is the ability to understand the business. And you have to, it comes down to these different forms of knowledge. You know, what kind of knowledge do you have? Is it the knowledge of the system? Is it knowledge of the business? Is it route knowledge of the system, or survey knowledge of the system? And finding a group of people who have got different but different complementary knowledges and bringing them together, that's what builds trust. You know, there's no technical trust, there's always personal trust. And people don't trust data, they trust other people. And so you need to be able to find people whose knowledge is complementary and build that kind of team. It's very much a team building process rather than a technical development process.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Great answers as always. We'll follow up afterwards with any additional questions people might have in the panel.
Sure.
So I'll pass back to Brian. Do you want to do the next? Are we stepping into Mike's talk?
Yeah, that's right. I'll just briefly, very briefly share more to get an amazing image of Mike up on the screen more than anything else. And our second speaker is Mike Tarallo, who's product marketing manager at Qlik. And if you don't know who Mike is, you probably never visited LinkedIn or Twitter before and looked for the term Qlik. I think Mike's going to introduce for us the April 2020 QlikSense release, Mike, which was very recently put out in the wild. So without any further ado, we'll throw it over to you if that works for you.
That sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And, you know, if you're taking a look at the screen, Brian, little gift for you, 3D printed Nintendo sign. Going to be sending on your way to you.
Oh, you're the man, mate. You're the man. Thank
I
you.
always look at my friends, of course. But thank you. And thank you for wearing the Duck Hunt shirt. I love it.
Good.
So hello,
Especially
everyone.
for you, man.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second while I get this up. Share and make sure you guys can see. I got a QlikSense Enterprise desktop. Hub up. All good? Okay. All right. So, everybody, I really appreciate your time and being here. And I actually have a presentation prepared, which is going to be more than just, what's new in April 2020. Because why? Because you can see that and watch it on the video. I'm actually going to spend some more time on things I didn't get to actually present in the April 2020 release, because at that time when I create the video content, some of that stuff wasn't available. So I have a little presentation here, basically prepared before we jump into some live demonstration. But what I wanted to do is I just wanted to have a little fun. A lot of people will, ask me, what is my job, or if people, assume what is it that I do, and they'll say something to the matter of the fact is, you create Qlik videos, and they are sort of right. But I could also, basically say you're wrong. Well, you're right, but there is something very important about my job besides those videos, because my job helps evoke emotion. When somebody watches a video, it's a form of artwork, because at that time, people have opinions, people have questions, right? I'm here to make you excited about what is available in Qlik, whether it's on the data analytics side or data integration. I kind of coined myself a jack of all trades, master of maybe one or two, instead of master of none, for example. So I am dealing with Qlik Data Analytics. I'm also dealing with Qlik Data Integration now. And then we're acquiring many different companies and integrating so many products. We're moving at light speed. A big, applause to the products team and leadership at Qlik for turning this around. And then people see this in my videos. I'm here to present something that makes you inquisitive. I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to promote technology in an interesting, fun, and engaging manner. And that's how I, produce those videos out there, because I want to engage with you. I want your questions. I want to know how you feel, because that information is then given back to product management. I'm also here to understand your needs and be your advocate with your ideas and help promote your stuff within the company. And I'm here to be your sounding board as well when something doesn't work right. And then finally, I love to pass the enthusiasm that I have about Qlik products. I'm going in Qlik almost 9 years now. The rose-colored glasses are still on in this company, and I want to pass that same enthusiasm on to you as well. So that being said, we're going to talk about the April 2020 release. You could ignore this little sticky note on the side. That is for me as a little reminder, because I have a lot of different environments to present to you today. You're going to like this presentation. It's going to be engaging. I'm using many different technologies, some on VPN, some in the cloud, some locally, some on Azure, some on Amazon. So forgive me if something goes wrong, but I think with my 300 megabits, connection and all that stuff, we should be all right. So the first thing, I'm just going to mention the Insider webinar. So anything that I might not cover today, we're going to have an Insider webinar, which we present on May 27th. Okay, it always starts out with our product management and product marketing teams presenting slides, and then it ends up with me doing a 15 to 20-minute demo on some of this stuff. So a lot of that stuff I might not get into detail today, but you could see that live if you sign up for our partner, Fast Track webinars, or our Insider webinars. I'd like to show you something new that we've added called notifications in the cloud-based deployments of QlikSense. We've added a better getting started experience in our cloud deployments, helping people guide and navigate their way to understanding how to add data, popping up videos, showing them how to create their first level of apps. There's a new capability called chart sharing in cloud deployments, which is really cool. I got a nice little demonstration on that. You actually configure your own SMTPM gateway inside the cloud environment, so you can distribute content directly through that gateway. Then Qlik alerting. If you guys have been following me on Twitter and LinkedIn, you see I'm throwing up these hype videos or these quick explainer videos talking about some of the greatness that's in Qlik alerting. And that is something that I've been playing with the past couple of days, and I'm prepared to show you some of that as well. We also have the ability to create links. Some people don't know about that, but instead of adding apps and uploading apps, you could also create basically some tiles that link out to external content. I want to show you that. We've added capabilities of managing data connections per space in cloud-based environments. So if you're familiar with our new cloud-based environments, when you hear cloud-based environments, that is QlikSense Enterprise running in a private or public cloud of your choice. So for example, QlikSense Enterprise on a Kubernetes environment. For example, you have the ability to create spaces, which is a way of managing, securing, and organizing your content. Well, now you can put data connections and organize those per space. So those connections are now stored in that type of manner. Something also that we're working on, part of what we call our analytics modernization program, is helping people understand how they can work with QlikView and QlikSense together, basically monitoring that for QlikView customers. And I'm going to show you how I can go from my QlikView environment and deploy and distribute a QlikView app directly to my QlikSense environment and access it that way, and then use all the modern organization and secure tools directly in my modern hub for a QlikView app. Then time, this is if we have time and you guys want to see this, we can do some of those features that everybody loves, a little visualization, a little bit of dashboard features that are in the April QlikSense. You know, we have our new org chart, we have the ability to save the layouts for pivot tables, we have some enhancements to our geo analytics software. So there's a number of little minor tweaks that they've added, new modifiers for advanced calculations. I'm going to spend some time on that as well. And then something for the enterprise customers, we have a brand new web app that's been available in our tools location, a folder that's installed at Windows Enterprise that gives a self-service way of managing your apps through something called the Application Management Console. Okay, and all of this in some form or fashion will be available in some video format or at a webinar near you if you want to follow up. Okay, so the Insider webinar, just so you know, go.qlik.com. We could have Brian distribute that URL at the end. That way you can register for that. Again, that's happening May 27th. Okay. And this is some of the dashboard and visualization stuff that I'm going to present. Navigation menu, org chart visualization, sharing bookmarks, relative modifier, sheet triggers, the ability to actually have a sheet do something when you open it up, such as set a variable or store a selection or clear a selection, saving layout states. So when you send a bookmark to somebody as you are analyzing data, the layout of the chart object, whether it's a table or pivot table, stays in that particular state. KPI layout behavior, so we can have more consistency across the visualization layout of the KPI objects, and I'll share some of that. Okay. So what I like to do during my presentation is kind of keep myself honest. I want to show you notifications in the QlikSense Cloud deployments. So this is going to require me to go to my hub on, I think this is my QlikSense Cloud deployment. There we go. There we go. Okay. So as you guys should understand, we have many deployments. We call them deployment options. Okay. You might hear QlikSense Enterprise on Windows, QlikSense Enterprise on Qlik Cloud Services, QlikSense Enterprise on Kubernetes. I'm not responsible for naming this stuff. It's QlikSense. Okay, so basically, whatever it is, it's QlikSense, and then there's your deployment option on Windows or in a cloud-based deployment. On Kubernetes, which is you install and manage Kubernetes in your own environment in a private or public cloud of your choice, or on cloud services, which is our SaaS model. And this SaaS model basically is managed the infrastructure, scale up by Qlik. Okay, I'm not going to talk pricing, subscription, all that. That you work with other people. I want to have the fun with the technology. Okay, understand in summary, everything regarding QlikSense, the April 2020 release, is around more choices for QlikSense with new enterprise licensing type models, as well as the modernization for QlikView and the new navigation improvements and dashboard capabilities. So in the cloud version that you see in front of you here, you'll notice right next to my profile icon, there is a notification bell. When you click that notification bell, you can see the name of my app, in this case, was successfully reloaded. We can go in, mark it as read, or delete this notification. So this is just a quick way to be aware of critical capabilities or tasks that you have set up within your apps and see it up front when you log into your QlikSense hub, again, on a cloud-based deployment. Okay, so at this time here, I'm just going to mark these all as read. We can manage preferences, and we could also delete all notifications. Okay, if we go to managing preferences, you can set up the notifications you want to be alerted about, the spaces that you're added to. If somebody adds to a space, so-and-so You know, Donald Farmer has added me to the TreeHive space, for example, I get that notification. Any apps that we might have shared, or if you subscribe or unsubscribe directly to those particular notifications. This is all available within the settings capability of the profile on cloud-based deployments. Okay, so that is the notifications. Occasionally my connection will get lost because it expires. Go back to our data story. So the better getting started experience. This is going to be great for new customers that just want to explore. We don't want people falling off or falling out of the funnel, you know, as they're looking and working with Qlik, because maybe they'll get frustrated. So in our latest releases of QlikSense, when you go to, for example, the home page, you're going to see Start Your Journey. And this is pretty much an information pane which you can close, and you can also dismiss it and have it come up later in your profile. But immediately, all they have to do is click Analyze Sample Data, and it will automatically upload, attach the data, create the app, and bring you directly into the design interface. So people can start dragging and dropping and creating analytics. They don't have to worry about, how do I get my data into my app? How do I want to work? They just want to experience QlikSense immediately, and then they go in, they want to find new insights, and then we have little guidance along the way that will help give them a tour of analyzing this sample data. I mean, how cool is that? Come on. I mean, that's amazing. You know, my wife could actually do this. So that's a nice new getting started experience that's added to the hub. Now you'll notice the buttons to navigate back and forth to the hub are also been a little bit more prominent, so people can actually jump back instead of navigating those menus. And in addition to those getting started sample data, you'll see Analyze Your Data File. So you click this, and this will bring you directly to let you browse your content and allow you to analyze that data file. And then we've also included pop-up videos that will allow people to get started. I haven't created this particular video. Our product content management team has, because they were helping me out. Thank God for them as well, because I can't do everything myself. They create a lot of great content that is stored on our Qlik Help channel on YouTube as well, and in the Qlik documentation. So we're including embedded videos too to help people navigate. This hopefully, and I'm almost can trust that will give a better getting started experience to new customers. Okay. Now this I absolutely love. That's why I wrote so darn cool next to this, chart sharing. And this is available in cloud deployment. So I have a nice little example that maybe Brian can relate to. I'm going to, I have so many environments. It's not even funny. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into my MTO environment, which is my cloud. And a lot of you know, and maybe some of you don't, I'm a big gamer. I'm a retro gamer. I love everything from like 1970s all the way up to the 90s. I like some of the modern stuff too, but I have a retro video game collection. Even PS4 is probably the latest that I have, and Xbox One. But I have a collection of content from video consoles down to cartridges, accessories, and I basically maintain a sheet. And the best way for me to learn and understand the uniqueness and awesomeness of Qlik is to work on data that I love and understand. There's only so much sample sales data I could work, but this data I can relate to. This is my collection value over time. It goes out real time. It gets pricing data from a pricing service that I pay monthly for, compares prices from eBay and Amazon, and it stores it into my QVD. I do an incremental load on it on a daily basis. I've been running this for 836 days now, and we can see the collection. I also maintain new values. So as I'm looking at this, I know Brian and I were talking about Legend of Zelda, and I know Donald was talking about the ability to browse, and you know, Qlik gives you that ability. So I'm just going to start typing in Legend of Zelda, and you can see how using our global smart search that it helps you along the way. This is nobody else has this, okay? If you're not leading with this or showing the power behind this, you're leaving something on the table that these people, customers, I know I sound like a salesperson, I'm just talking in general, because I present at user groups, and at the user groups, I show this and the people don't know it's there. So this is a very powerful capability, and it helps give you recommendations and suggestions. So here I'm typing Legend of Zelda, and I can see all the different titles platforms. And here we go, Title Plat Legend of Zelda. And I can see the trend over time. The blue line is the loose cartridge, meaning no box, no manual. The orange is the box and the manual. Look at the sporadicness in this, but look where we are now in April. So let's select that, and it's on its way up. It's at $83.08. You know what? Let me go look at this a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to right click on this and click share. And I'm going to say, let's put in our email. Brian, if I had your email address right off the top of my head, I would put in for you. mtvideo@qlik.com. Dude, you need to buy this now. It is on its way up. Okay, and we're going to click share. Okay, boom. That selection state, that chart is now sent over to my email, which I'm going to bring into my screen here. And we're going to go to my MT video. Okay, and we're going to see exactly at 11:21. Do an update. And there we go. And there's our chart. Michael Tarallo shared a chart with you. Dude, you need to buy this now. It's on its way up. Okay, that's chart sharing, and that is another amazing and awesome capability that is available within the QlikSense cloud-based editions. Okay, very cool. Okay, so click alerting. Yeah, this is something that not only it was very intuitive to set up, a lot more intuitive to set up than Qlik InsightBot was. So needless to say, you'll be seeing some video content on InsightBot coming soon as well. But Qlik alerting basically allowing you to keep track not only of your data alerts with sophisticated algorithms and statistical comparisons that you can store and have tracked and alerted on mobile devices, but you can also keep track of system alerts. Okay, so check this out. So I'm going to go back to my video marketing console, and I'm going to go into my Qlik Alert console. So this is the Qlik Alert console as an administrator. Okay, and because we are limited on time, and I'm very respectful to people's time, especially on a Friday, I'm going to kind of fudge a couple things, but I also have my phone in front of me here. And what I'm going to do is do some screen mirroring. And there's my phone. Okay, let's just keep that right up there. Let's move this to the side. Now I already have alert set, and I'm going to edit that alert. And this is monitoring my retro gaming collection. And I set up basically just look at the total change. Okay, if the total change and the condition is greater than $1, meaning it goes up every day, send me an alert. Okay, on the schedule, it's going to do it on automatic reload. And distribution method is going to be email and mobile. So all I'm going to do at this point here is I'm just going to click cancel on this, and I'm going to trigger this alert. Now, if you watch the video, you actually see me do a reload. Now watch my phone. In a few seconds, you should see an alert pop up, and there you go. Click alert notification, tap on that alert, use my Face ID, and there we go. You're going to see new alert received, total collection. There we go, greater than $1. Tap on that alert, and there's my trigger history. So look at that trend going up on my total collection for my complete inbox right there. And you can see the trigger history as well, and I can tap on this, and I can get some additional information. And if I had it set up, I can tap on this link, and it'll bring me directly into that dashboard I showed you earlier. Okay, and then also to show you that is received in my email, we move my phone out of the way, and there's the email that you get as well. I know you guys are like probably with your mouth open right now saying, I want this, you know, here, give me my money. It's what you guys are doing right now. But this stuff is what excites me, and this is why I'm here to present this stuff to you, to show you it's real and it works, and it's fun. I mean, again, it's not a job if you're having fun doing it, right? All right, so that is an example of Qlik alerting. Creating a new alert, 2 ways of doing it. You can do it through the admin console, and I'm not going to make this a how-to tutorial, but an admin can do it through the console with many different conditions. But if I wanted to, of course, I have to go to a different system where I have it set up. So on this system here, imagine that you're in your stream, and at this point, you're analyzing this data. Now, this is another version of my app that I have that it actually uses Murray Gringo's MGO grid view. So here I could actually have, you know, all the images of all the icons. but I'm interested in keeping track of this total change. So I'm going to do a self-service alert. So I click Create Alert, Mike's Alert, click Next. Okay, I want to filter by this object. I want this one here. I want to add that collections measure. If I wanted to select a particular dimension, I could. I click Next, greater than, manual value, say $20. Click Next. Selection bookmarks, trigger on reload, frequency every time, create alert, and now my alert is created. So at the same time, when you do this, and it brings you directly into the management console, if you want to see this again, okay, and you can see there's Mike's alert that's maintained, okay? So you can create self-service alerts, you can create administrator-based data alerts, and you can create system alerts. So anytime that data is reloaded or triggered at the same time, you can also get a success, a failure. So I actually have this analysis reload right here. Okay, my tasks: load the pricing data, do the incremental load, update the app, and send on success. So every day at 12 a.m., I get a notification that my apps were successfully loaded. Okay, so these are your system alerts. Okay, so that's all I want to spend on alerting. Awesome stuff right there. Again, this is stuff that's not going to be on the Insider webinars because it wasn't available for me during the time of the recording. I have to, sometimes we're down to the wire when we're releasing software, so it's stuff that's not always available to me. And I spend a good majority of my time for getting the software prepared in the environment that I can use to capture footage. I can't go to PM and say, give me this footage, give me this, because they'll give me all different resolutions. It won't meet my standards when it comes to creating video content. Okay. Hopefully I'm keeping you guys engaged and you're liking what you're seeing. Create links cloud-based. Okay, so this particular example is also within our cloud-based versions of QlikSense. So what we can do here, very, very simple. You have your environment. Now, many of you know that the QMC, or Qlik Management Console, you can import and export apps. But with the cloud-based version, the idea is to provide a more self-service experience for those who have access. So you can also, obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you can go in and you could use our menus and you could export with data, export without data, excuse me, etc. You can do all this directly from the hub. So we're putting a lot more administration and management capability into the hub and allowing you to secure the rights for that through the administration, again, once in the hub, not so much in the management console. Okay, so in this particular instance here, I can upload an app, I can create an app, or I can create a link. So my link is going to be Google, and we're going to use HTTP, and we're just going to say, you know what? All right, we'll use Google. I was going to use Qlik.com. What kind of employee am I? Let me do that. So Qlik.com, and I'm not going to put in any space or anything, just click Create. And now we have a link directly within our hub. The hub is the personalized place where you're going to be viewing all your content. There's a lot more going to be coming to the hub. If you tune to certain conversations with Josh Good, you might have seen some of this already in certain discussions and other things. We have a lot more personalization and capabilities that are coming into the hub, so stay tuned. Okay. Managing data connections per space. So this is more of an administration capability. So we have this notion of what's called spaces. Okay, spaces allow you to organize and secure content and then assign different roles and users to these spaces. So you're organizing who sees what and how someone can operate and work with the different content. So you can add two types of spaces. In an enterprise environment, you can add a shared space, which is more of the development work area, collaborative work area, and then the managed space, which is more of the deployment consume-only area. In this example here, I'm just working in QlikSense Business, which only supports shared spaces. But when you have a space created, within the space, you have apps. And then when you're in that space, that app will then have data connections associated with it. Okay, so here, if I go into my data manager, oh, that's another new feature here, this menu across the top. I forgot to mention that. So if we go into the data manager and we go to add data, you'll notice that we now have a drop-down or context area that allows you to select the space, and then you can see based off the spaces that we choose, different data connections will display. Okay, so That's something that we've been working on as well to organize and secure your data connections within a specific space. And then basically the security rights will be attached to those data connections for the users that are part of that space. Okay, guys. So I know a lot of you might be waiting for this if you're a QlikView user. In order to do this, I have to VPN in. Usually what happens when I VPN in, it connects to Sweden. Sometimes I don't know why it does that. It should connect to Pennsylvania, but for some reason it does that. So I am connecting to my VPN. You might lose me for like a half a second, and then it should come right back. So Brian, I'm going to ask you to verify that you can still hear me once I'm connected to VPN.
We'll keep you in the loop, Mike. Don't worry.
Okay. All right, I'm connected to VPN, so everybody can see me. Everything's good.
All good. Yeah.
Good.
All
okay.
good.
All right. So my friend Vinay Kapoor, love the guy. He's just as enthusiastic as I am. Helped set me up with an environment that I'm going to go to now, which is the QlikView environment. I've been so kind of disconnected from QlikView. It's been a while. So, but I remember it. It's just that I started with it back in the day. Please let me in. So here is the QlikView Management Console. And I already have it set up. I'm not going to go through the setup process. There is a video that our help team and Vinay had released on the QlikHelp channel that shows you the setup. It's basically saying, hey, QlikView, here's your server. Hey, QlikSense, here's your server. Let's talk to each other. Here's a token from QlikView. Let's put it into the administration of QlikSense, and now the two talk to each other. It is so simple. I could show you the setup basically within the system. But basically, you'll see here I have my cloud deployments option. And here you can see I have my April US Cloud. I have another environment that I use. That's my April US Cloud release. And we go into General. And you can see here it's configured. Now, what we do is we generate a configuration called a bearer token. And that token basically is here. And then we take that token and we paste it into QlikSense under our IDP. Identity provider authentication, and then basically the two servers talk to each other magically. So if you remember how to use, I'm going to say this, if I remember how to use QlikView, on my sense, we have user documents. User documents are your QlikView applications, and you have tasks, which are attached, which are reload tasks, for example. Well, this is going to be a distribution task that's been set up, and we're just going to use the movies database that we all know and love. Hold on. There we go. It just takes movies database. Or maybe it's under my source documents. Hold on a second. And movies database. There's 4 tasks. And there you go. Load to Tarallo. So load to Tarallo basically is a task that takes the QlikView movies database and it deploys it directly to my QlikSense. Here we don't reload it. We're going to have basically question comes up is where does the reload happen? Basically, as part of a chained or a triggered task, what you do is you reload on QlikView and then distribute to QlikSense. So there's no reloading happening on the QlikSense server at this point. So all I'm going to do with this particular task here is we're just going to kick that off. So I'm going to go to System, and I'm going to go to my, bear with me, movies. I forgot where I did this yesterday. Where is it? Hold on a second. It should be under Documents. That's the task. And then we go Run. And then basically what that's going to do is take the environment, and now we're going to go to my April release. And we're going to log in. Explore, and there is my movies database distributed directly to my, they call it the movies database. The movies database is an app of QlikView app, and now I could use this just like we all remember using QlikView. And we have support for geoanalytics and our accessibility extensions as well. So that's something to keep track of as well. That, in other words, the QlikSense server will work with QlikView extensions. Now, not third-party extensions, but the geoanalytics extension and accessibility extensions at this time. Okay. that was QlikView to QlikSense. This is part of the modern analytics modernization program. Okay, again, as we talked about, it's basically allowing more choice for QlikView users. Okay, April QlikSense dashboard visualization features. In order to show this, I have an app already prepared, so I'm not going to go and build each one out for you. So here we're just going to go right back to our hub. And if you want this app, this is available on demos.qlik.com. So at any time, don't worry about, where's that app? It's crazy having all these environments, isn't it? I had a nice big tile that said April. It's February. Oh, I bet you it's in the April server. That would make sense. Okay, so this is an app that's prepared gratefully by Patrick Nordstrom, who's our data visualization product management guru. Also formerly, he's now part of the geoanalytics capability. I forgot the name of the former company he came over from, but now he handles a lot of the data visualization. So, and as I mentioned, this app is available on demos.qlik.com. So we have a new org chart visualization that basically allows you to create hierarchical cards for organization. Basically, if you have a parent-child relationship within your key fields and you select this visualization, which is available in our extension bundle. So showing you right here underneath our custom objects, extensions, Qlik visualization bundle. And you can see there's a new option here called org chart. A new navigation menu is also a new feature here. Okay, now not the menu going across, but the sub-context menus. In other words, we're trying to make it a little bit easier to navigate the QlikSense hub. So instead of having the two context or navigation menus here, for example, so when you go in and you upgrade, if you haven't upgraded yet to February 2020, don't, like I did, I'm like, where's my data load editor? And I was starting to get a little annoyed. It's actually in the prepare area of the data. Okay, so you have the context menus that help basically bring you into different sections, depending on where you are, directly to analyzing insights or sheet creation or data storytelling or data preparation. Okay, the ability to share bookmarks. So anytime there's an option on a published chart, you can actually set a bookmark to be public, and then that bookmark will be available within the particular app. So depending on where your app is in your content, if it's shared, I don't think I have one of those set up on this particular server here. I might have it on my local, which, let's see if it's going to start. Yeah, that my local server isn't started. But basically, that is an option. Let me bring up the sorry about this. It's just because I have so many windows going on. I'm losing track of where we are. The April release. I'll organize this a little better by closing some of these down. Let's go back and
Hey Mike, it's Brian here. Yeah. Just to say, we're just running just a little bit over, so I appreciate that you're navigating hard to find where you're going, but we want to be able to fit in a few questions for you at the end as well. So
we could stop here. Basically, I'll end it with my majority of presentation was to show you everything I showed you. This I said is if we had time. The reason is that we have this in video format already, and somebody could take a few 5 minutes just to watch it. It's not that entertaining as the other stuff was. But this is available immediately for anybody to use directly on our demos.qlik.com site.
Thank you, Mike. That was really awesome to see that whistle-stop tour of QlikSense April 2020 and all things we really don't get to see in the What's New videos on social as well. I wondered if George or Andrew had picked out any particular questions. I'm going to maybe turn to George. Just I know he had to nip away for a few minutes in the meeting. George, did you have any burning questions you wanted to pull out of the chat for us?
Sure, actually, there's quite a few. So I think, Mike, we're going to be sending you a list to work through so we can get back to people. It does seem to be quite a hot topic. I know there's two or three that I'm certainly going to be interested in trying out myself. Alerts, chart sharing and bookmark sharing. Fantastic. Looking forward to that. Just scanning through some of these here. Let me have a quick look. We've got one, will the alerts integrate with printing?
That's a good question.
There's your first one.
So the answer to that at this time is probably not, but I don't know what their integration plans are. So I would definitely send me all these questions and I will get back to everybody. My goal every day is to have like an empty inbox. It makes me feel satisfied that I've answered everything, but I can find out more on that. That I don't know at this time.
Okay. Just scanning through a few more of these. I think what might be best then is if we just paste them into a single email to you, Mike, and then we can republish them with all of the answers. There's lots. There's quite a few just around functionality, connectors for the cloud, etc. So lots of good stuff there.
Okay, I can't tell you that Qlik Alerting right now is just available. Big question that always comes up. Qlik Alerting right now is available for enterprise only on Windows as a value add product. I don't have any insight on plans for anything else as far as integration with cloud and if it's going to be free and all that stuff. That's beyond the scope of my job function, but it's right now just available for Windows QlikSense Enterprise.
The thing I got from that, Mike, apart from the great technical content in April Sense, was just your passion for Qlik. You really get that in a live show like this because it came across really well. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I agree, Mike, and we kind of love to have you back as a kind of regular guest when the releases come through. So we hope this is not the last time that we see you.
I'll be here for you. Just let me know.
That was awesome, Mike. I'm just going to grab the screen back for a second, guys, because I'm aware that we're just running a little bit over, and I appreciate other people have time to get back to their stuff that they're doing today before they have a cool end of Friday. So we've obviously done the QA. I just wanted to mention very quickly our next meetup. You'll know that we've had episode 1 and 2. We've got number 3. Number 3 is coming. We're running every second Friday is what we're doing at the moment. A large pool of speakers. So episode 3 will be on Friday the 8th of May at 3 p.m. BST. So 2 weeks today. 2 really big keynote speakers. I think one of them might still be on the line with us. I'm not sure if he's still around, but we've got Steve Dark, another Qlik luminary legend and community MVP as well of Qlik Intelligence. So really excited to have Steve in our next episode. And we've also got Patrick Lundblad, visualization advocate at Qlik and the master demoer of the spinning pie chart. I'm sure he's got much more exciting stuff than that to show us next time around. But again, I think you'll agree it's another great set of guests that we've got for the next episode. And we are planning ahead. We've kind of planned ahead for episode 4 as well. So if you want to sign up for episode 3, I think we dropped a link earlier on, but QVMS EP3 is where you need to go. We really appreciate the time out today. I'll just very quickly just put up the survey link again in case you want to give us a little bit of feedback. But again, I want to give George and Andrew a chance to say thanks again for you all attending today. George, Andrew?
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks everyone for attending. Thanks to Donald and Mike for the great presentations. Just hope everyone please stay healthy and safe, and hopefully we'll see you again in 2 weeks' time.
Yep, I thoroughly look forward to every second Friday now. It's there's not an awful lot that goes on here at the moment, so these are something to look forward to for me. Thanks to all the fantastic presenters, and thanks for everybody who's turned up to watch. You guys make it as well, so thanks to everybody.
Take care, guys. My pleasure. Enjoy. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. I look forward to getting that Nintendo sign soon.
Yes. I'm going to send it out shortly.
We'll keep the chat open for a couple of minutes, guys. Thanks again to our presenters. If we can just get the URLs in. George, you're on it. Brilliant stuff.
They're there.
Hey, Brian, send me those emails when you can. I'll probably get to it next week.
Nice one, Mike. Will do.
All right.
Yep.
Guys, stay well.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Right, we'll keep the recording and the chat on for a couple of minutes just to make sure we catch everything at the end there.
Yes, I think I missed about half an hour of Donald Farmer, so I'm looking forward to
Watching the rerun. Yeah,
watching the rerun. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris, Alessandro, Chris, Garan, Frank, Deepak. Thank you so much for all of your comments. We'll fight through them all when the session ends. And we are trying to get this feedback loop open with Qlik as well to be able to answer all your questions. I think Mike's been brilliant so far, so I'm sure he'll answer everything that he can for us. I hope you got everything resolved that you needed to, George, yeah?
Really boring. We've got developers working over the weekend. We've got trying to tie up with a technical team in the US. Somebody was meant to provide us with a GL extract, general ledger extract. We didn't get it. So the guys were flapping that they weren't going to be able to complete this bit of work over the weekend. So we're there. Just a little fire. Just normal.
Fine, I noticed we're still recording. I don't know if. Yeah.
We'll get a bit of George and Brian chat at the end then. But yes, I will stop the recording. Thanks again, everyone. Cheers.
Okay, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Andrew.